All righty, we're going to go ahead and kick things off officially here, everyone. Want to give everyone a warm Saturday morning here as we kind of dive in for the day. This is really exciting for me because this is kind of one of the first times that our alliance is beginning to meet together. As you all know, we have our alliance prep session this Tuesday from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. But these series of calls are something that I decided to do to really prep and set up everyone to go into the push with the proper mentality, the proper expectations, the proper skill set. The pushes over the years, and people want to have really, really big goals. Hold on, I'm going to mute everyone here for a second. People want to have really, really big goals to push, but they're not really prepared mentally or prepared maybe with their attack list or prepared, with their skill set of what it will really take or be required of them to achieve it, which is why I'm starting this early and giving you all a taste so you can start, mentally getting into the right spot, getting your attack list into the right spot, getting your skill set into the right spot so you're going to the push with confidence, with belief, and really just, start thinking about the possibility of really what's possible for you during this push. So I've reached out to lots of different people in the Cutco world, outside of the Cutco world, that have been here, that have done it multiple times. And there's no one else in my mind that I'd rather have kick off this series of calls for us than the guest that we have this morning. So today, Taylor Max, we call him T-Max, Ricart, is hopping on our call here. And, he's actually located, for those of you guys that did not know, is in the Miami office. Occasionally stops by our office. This is the type of guy that, if you ever see him at our office, you want to, hound him with a lot of questions because, he's not there quite often. And he sold a lot of Cutco. He sold as a college student. He sold as a career sales professional. And he has a long history with the company. He was actually a 2 times branch manager in Florida Caribbean in 2012 and 2014. He's worked with Kathy Vasquez, the previous Miami manager before I was ever even in Miami. He's had over 125,000. Probably way more than this actually by now, T-Max. Lots of grand days, lots of over $1,000 average order on demos. He has over $700 average order just on demos in general. His biggest week, I believe, is a 20K week. He's had, some of y'all have 10K pushes, and this is the first time that you ever, have set a goal to sell 10K for yourself in a push. He's had 10 10K pushes. He's also had another 5 20K pushes. He's had 2 30K pushes, 1 40K push, another 45K push. And then his goal for this year is to have a $50,000 push. And by the way, his goal this year is to have give a $50,000 push. He just donated his kidney about a month or 2 ago. I think it's about 2 months ago. So for those of you guys that were at the divisional meeting, Andy Janti is another one of our career sales professionals in Miami. And was having kidney trouble and kidney failure. And Taylor Max came up as a match and just recently donated to him and really saved his life. So, he's been recovering over the past few weeks, which is really, really why it's exciting because he hasn't even been able to do calls like this or help out really any other offices or teams very much here over the past few months. And, he's really, really going out of his way to help out our team with this call. He's also about to start, like I said, selling $50,000, in a 2.5 week period of time, while realistically, he still has to rest up and get healthy, per the doctor's orders here too. So, not only going and selling more, but he's going to have to be more strategic about it. He's basically going to have to work less and sell more this year as he enters it too. So someone that knows a lot about selling Cutco, someone also that knows a lot about really what it takes to be mentally in the place where you can have a strong push performance. And there's no one else I'd rather have to kick off our calls here. So without further ado, bring to y'all T-Max Ricart.
Thank you, Andrew. Good stuff, man. And I'm going to share a couple different things with you guys, but SC2 Push, this is my time. This is what I love. This is one of my favorite parts of the business. It's been built into my business for the last 8 years. I make anywhere from 20 to 30% of my income for the year in these 18 days. And a part of that is something that I've built over the years very strategically, but it started my first 2-3 years just like you guys. And so what I wanted to do today, instead of covering some skill set stuff, average order. There's a ton of great stuff online. You should be listening to that every day. You should be reaching out to your manager and learning and growing. My YouTube channel has some great stuff. You can just look up my name, Taylor Max Ricart, Taylor-Max Ricart. And there's a ton of great videos up there to help you out with your skill set. But during the push, when things get tough, what we remember are stories. And that's really what I wanted to share with you guys today, was just the story of a couple of my previous pushes that I thought would be most applicable to where you guys are at. The story of a couple of pushes from friends of mine and how it happened. Because I know when you're going into it for the first time, I understand how hard it can be to conceptualize what it's going to take, or what does a 10,000 or a 20,000 or a 30,000 push actually look like when it breaks down, when the rubber hits the road. And so I want to walk you through a couple of my pushes and the things that I learned along the way. My intention is that there's a couple things you can snag some notes on. For sure, anything that's on the PowerPoint you may want to jot down, but this isn't going to be like a heavy note-taking call. I really want you guys to be engaged, and these stories will help you through parts of the push as you go through. So in 2011, when I first started selling Cutco, pushes were not what they are today. You know, top CSPs were selling $20,000, $30,000. The biggest push ever was like $50,000 or $60,000 at the time. So the expectation, the mentality wasn't quite the same. My goal was to sell $12,500. That was when I won when you would qualify for the Champions Night, which now is a really cool shift they've made in the region this year. I'm really excited about it. If you sell, I believe it's still $12,500. You might want to check with Andrew on that. But if you have over a 10K push, you qualify to be with here before for the assistant managers on the call.
Hey, T-Max, I think you cut out there a little bit. Say that last part one more time.
Goal for your business, for your life, for your finances to get it. So SC1, I had sold $8,000 for the push. I sold $8,000 for the summer prior to, sorry, I lost my PowerPoint here. All right. So 2011, I sold $8,000 in 2 months, and now my goal was to sell $12,500 in 2 weeks, in 18 days. Try to sell more than what I'd sold over the course of the summer. And the reason I chose to do this was finances. I wanted to have some money before I went back to school, but also I got a little taste of the Cutco business. I wasn't super committed at the time. I was working other jobs, but I had heard about how powerful the alliance could be, what a great experience the push was. And I figured, I got 2 weeks. Let me go all out. Let me see what I could really do here and find out if this is going to be a good fit for me. I don't think it's possible. And believe me, I did not think I was going to sell more than I'd sold in 2 months in 2 weeks. But I believed in my manager's belief in me and the confidence that she had when she was, you know, telling me my real capabilities. And so I committed to the push, and I ended up selling $12,500, made more money than I had made all summer. And that was really part of what kept me in the business throughout the fall. I went on to branch and have several other big pushes. So with that first push, what I really learned was the power of commitment, because my manager made it very clear to me that no matter what I sold, I was going to be in that office every day for the full push. That if I was going to be a part of the alliance, that if I was going to commit to a 10K push, she wasn't going to accept anything less than 100% full commitment. And it was one of the first times in my life I had ever really committed in a full way and sold out completely to something. And I was really excited to see what I could create with that. And commitment is something I wanted to focus on, because if I think about what the few keys are that really make a big push happen, the biggest one is commitment. The commitment you make to yourself, to your alliance members, to your team members, to your manager, and the way that you honor that commitment. Commitments have been a big thing on my mind this year. You know, in December, Andy got sick. He had polycystic kidney disease, and they basically gave him 3 months to live. He had to be on dialysis right away and needed to be on the kidney transplant list. And when I got tested in January, I was terrified. I never thought that I would be a person to donate a kidney. It was not on my dreams list. I promise you that. But I had an opportunity, and it really made me look at myself. And I realized I was not the person that I always kind of thought in my head that I was. Like, I thought I was the type of person that would be willing to do this. But now when the moment came, I was hesitant and unsure. And you really have to be sure about a decision like this. It's major surgery. It was 2 months of, I didn't work for 2 months after the surgery. And it's something that I'm going to carry with me the rest of my life. And so I had to really look at myself hard before I made that decision. And I didn't necessarily love what I saw, to be honest. I realized that this vision, this person that I had in my mind of who I was, maybe I wasn't as close to that as I thought that I could be. And a big part of it was I wasn't honoring my commitments. I wasn't honoring my commitments, and mostly to myself. And I wasn't honoring commitments to my clients, to others. And I really had to make a shift in January when I decided to do this, that I was going to realign my life back to being an honorable and good person. And as a result, this year, I am up from last year by like 20%, even though I haven't worked for 2 months. I had my most profitable spring, sold over $68,000 for the spring. And a big part of it was my commitment to my business, my commitment to myself, and honoring those small little things. How many times in a day do you tell yourself you're going to do something and then just blow it off? It's one thing to make a commitment to somebody else, right? But the commitments we make to ourselves and the ability to honor those commitments, whether it be something small like going to the gym or waking up on time, or something big like committing 18 days of your life to a goal, your ability to honor your commitments is a massive key to success. You won't find a single successful person in any industry that doesn't honor their own word to themselves. When they say they're going to do something, they find a way to make that happen, and they do it. And so this is a great opportunity for you to, with a lot of support, really honor a commitment that you make to yourself. And I remember listening to a Hal Elrod message right before I started my first push. And it became a ritual for me. I've actually shared this message with Andrew. I recommend that you guys reach out to him and ask him for the audio. But Hal Elrod, for those of you that don't know, best-selling author. He had a Cutco career here, was one of the first ever to have a $20,000 push in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, and has coached many people to have some big success. And the message that I listened to him was, the message I heard was his message on miracles. And he just released a book on this message, which is amazing. I just got it in the mail. I got a couple copies to give away, but the miracle equation, this was what has created all of those push results for me. This formula that I'm about to share with you right now. And he turned it into a book, which I'm really excited. I just started reading, but this was one of the first times he shared it. This is an audio recording from the early 2000s on a call just like this to prepare some people for the push. And every year I listen to this call 2 or 3 times prior to and during my push, and it really keeps me going. The main focus was the miracle equation. If you only take one thing away from this call, it's this. This is one of the few things I would write down. As a matter of fact, I would type it up, print it out, and put it in my car. I would put it anywhere that I could see it, maybe even in my blue book. But the miracle equation is unwavering faith plus extraordinary effort equals miracles. Not some faith, unwavering faith. And not average effort, not above average effort, not better than most effort, extraordinary effort. Unwavering faith plus extraordinary effort equals miracles. And this is actually the mantra that I used my very first summer. Affirmations and mantras have been a big part of my push every year. I highly encourage you guys to make one. I actually shared 2 of my previous mantras with Andrew. I encourage you guys to ask him and take a look at those. Make your own versions of them. My first summer, my mantra was simple. And I wrote this down and I read this multiple times a day, every day. I am 100% committed to my goal till the very end, no matter what. There is no other option. I am 100% committed to my goal, no matter what, till the very end. There is no other option. And this was my fuel for the push. Again, guys, I was not a rock star rep. And I think that's part of why my perspective is so powerful, because the truth is pushes happen so many different ways. I've had $10,000 orders. And so a push can happen with 2 orders, and you can have a $10,000 push. It can happen with 5 orders. But in most cases, if you're going for something big, something you've never done before, you're going to. And a part of what makes this push so powerful are the challenges that come along the way, the walls that you face and have to overcome. And when you overcome them, they're incredible. And so running this of I am 100% committed to my goal to the very end, no matter what, as you repeat that over and over and over every day, it starts to become automatic. And when things get tough in the middle, towards the end of the push, you'll have these moments where you want to quit. And out of instinct, out of repetition, what's going to come to your mind is this mantra. Man, you get out of a no sale, your next one canceled. The last thing you want to do is make phone calls. You sit down in your car, you're defeated. And if you've done this and you read this mantra right, it should pop into your mind, I'm 100% committed to my goal no matter what, there's no other option. And that's always helped me get back on the horse and keep moving forward. So I encourage you guys to utilize that or create your own mantra to share with everything. Most people fail not because of their lack of desire, but because of their lack of commitment. And that's really the case. So I challenge you guys, what is your level of commitment for this push? And I always ask myself this second question, and this is something you might want to spend a little bit of time thinking about and planning on. What could get in my way? What could get in your way? What could happen during this push that would prevent me from hitting my goals? And how can I best be prepared for that? 2016, my first $20,000 push, actually my first $40,000 push, 2017. Going into the push, my dog was not doing well. Now, I was in a different place with my commitment level. I was in a different place with my push. I had already had a couple of big pushes, and I was preparing to have my biggest push that year in 2017, the year I sold 40,000. I was trying to double my push performance from the previous year. And my dog wasn't doing well. And I knew that that was something that I might have to deal with during the push. And when it happened, the dog passed away. I had to cancel a couple of appointments, go home, help take care of that situation with my sister and my mother. But I made sure to prep myself for it mentally and made sure that I had a plan for, okay, if it happens in this situation, how am I going to react? If it happens like this, how am I going to react? What am I willing to sacrifice and what am I not? And really preparing myself. And for you, it may not be something as extreme. And sometimes these things happen unexpectedly. But, what could get in your way? What could your parents ask you to do during the push? What conversations could come up? What schoolwork might you have to prepare for the fall? What might happen during the push that could get in your way? And let's take care of all of that now before the push. One of the biggest things that's happened as I grew my push from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 was I started earlier every year. I prepared more every year. My actions during the push, they really didn't change that much. They were pretty similar from the first push to the last. What had changed was the number of hours that I worked increased every year. I was working later and starting earlier. The amount of commitment that I had, and then starting earlier and really clearing my schedule. So these 18 days, all I did from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. was interact with clients, period. I had my alliance from 7 to 8. From 8 to 9, I would start making some calls and prepare. But from 8 a.m. until 9 p.m., the only actions I took were interacting with clients. And this got more extreme every year. This is a concept you'll hear over time, but to show you how I applied that over the years. My first year, that meant just making more calls, right? A $10,000, a $15,000 push. This is possible for anybody. This is what people sell in their first 10 days on the job. So it's not a huge stress, and there's a million different ways it can happen. You could sell $10,000 on $200 orders. You can sell $10,000 on one big order. And at the beginning, it was just a matter of expanding what I thought was possible and putting in more hours. But as it got more serious, when I had my first 20K push, I actually had the opportunity to move into Andy's house for the push. And this was a guy that had done over $50,000 already. So I had a chance to watch what his daily actions were, and it shifted my mentality. When I tell you this man did nothing from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to interact with clients, he didn't Rolo. He didn't respond to emails. He didn't text. He didn't stop and get food. He actually hired an assistant, which is something I've done the last 2 years, to cook all of my meals and have them prepped. Last year, we hired a driver. So as opposed to driving, we were literally in the car making phone calls. Like, this is the level of commitment that I'm talking about here. And it's grown over the years, and the level of commitment is going to vary for each of you. But how far can you take it? How prepared can you be? How much stuff can you get out of the way beforehand? How organized can you be before you get there? Do you have a plan for food, or are you going to fuel yourself with fast food? It's not the most efficient way to do it. Is there a sister or mother or someone that can help you out and prep a meal once a day so when you leave the house, you have your lunch ready? And how efficient can you be from those hours of 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.? After 9 p.m., my last push, it was a matter of staying up 2, 3, 4 hours, prepping email, marketing, organizing my attack list for the next day, planning and preparing, because I wasn't doing any of those actions during the day. And so this is a pretty intense level of commitment, but the power that comes from it at the end is pretty incredible. So just to give you an idea of some of the breakdown for my very first push. My very first push, I didn't start until the day before the push. I had no appointments scheduled until the day before. Made a couple hundred calls. I scheduled some stuff. In my first week of the push, I sold $2,500, my biggest week ever at the time. But going into the second week, I didn't have the most confidence. My second week didn't happen so great either. I sold $3,000 my second week. Again, I increased over my best week. And now I'm at $5,500 for the push. My goal is to sell $12,500, and I have 4 days left. And put yourself in those shoes. You know, you're farther from your goal than what you've sold. You're less than 50% of the way there. And you've worked as hard as you can. You've called every contact that you have. You've pushed yourself to be uncomfortable, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And this is a place a lot of people find themselves during the push. But at that moment, you know, going into those last 4 days, after 14 days of reading that mantra to myself, I'm 100% committed no matter what. There's no other option till the very end. There was no other option. I was just going to keep going. And so I did. And the first day I didn't sell anything. And the second day I sold close to $1,000. And the third day, this is the second to last day of the push, I'm at 6,000 or so CPO. And I have 5 appointments scheduled. My biggest day of the push, I hadn't had 5 appointments scheduled the whole push. I drive to my first one, and it's a no-sale. I drive to my second one, it's a no-show. By the way, I was taking somebody field training with me, so they got to see this wonderful performance. The third one called me and canceled. Then I drove out to Homestead, deep Homestead, for an appointment, and the lady's not there. And I knock on the door, and she's not there. And I call her, and she doesn't answer. So I call my manager, and imagine how you feel after this, right? There's 1 day left of the push. You're $6,000 from your goal. You've sold $6,000. And I call my manager, and he's like, well, what else can you do, man? Stay there in the driveway and make calls. Prep your day for tomorrow. Prep some customers for phone orders. So that's what I did. I sat in that parking calls. I booked 2 more appointments for the next day, and this customer pulls up in the driveway. And I'm like, it's push magic. The miracles, they're happening, right? She's like, sweetheart, thanks for waiting for me. My phone died, and I got caught up at the grocery store. I meant to be here on time. I'm so sorry. Can you help me get the groceries out of the car? Then we'll get started. Perfect. Help her carry the groceries. Great rapport. Nice house. I go through the presentation. I close on the homemaker, and she doesn't buy. It's a no sale. I ask her for recommendations, and she refuses to give me anything. So now I'm leaving Homestead with another no sale, and I'm late for my last appointment. I call my last customer. She doesn't answer. But I'm 100% committed. No matter what, there's no other option. So I drive to her house. Appointment set for 9 p.m. I got there at 9:45 and knocked on her door. She's like, sweetheart, it's almost 10 o'clock. We were supposed to be here an hour ago. And I can only imagine what I looked like that day. I remember my air conditioning had actually broken earlier. I was driving an old 1998 Lincoln Town Car. And so I've been sweating all day. I was exhausted. I've been up at 7 a.m. this whole push. And I basically just told her that. I was so done and finished that I was honest and real. I'm like, Miss Jones, I know that contest I told you about? I've been working like an animal the last 15 days. I have 2 days left. If there's any way, I'll keep it at 15 minutes. You could just take a quick look at the stuff. It could make a difference. And so she lets me in the house. I go through the demo, and she tells me, sweetheart, I have breast cancer, and I'm actually having surgery in 2 days. I'm going to be out of work for a couple months. I love Cutco. I actually have the scissors. They're the best. I'd love to have a set. It's just not the right time. I can't spend $1,000 right now. So I drop down, show her some smaller options, and it's no's all the way through. And you can imagine, again, you know, that feeling But what kept ringing in my mind, I'm 100% committed no matter what. There's no other option. So what could I do? It's 11 o'clock at night. I finished the demo at her house. I'm like, Ms. Jones, I know this is crazy, but I have 2 days left. Is there anybody you know that maybe we can give a quick call to now? Somebody that's up late, you're up late.
Hey, T-Max, I don't know if you can hear me. We lost you here. Taylor Max, I'm not sure if you're on. Can anyone else hear him? All right. Hey, Taylor Max. Not sure if you can hear me. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me, T-Max. We can't.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we lost you right at you were at the appointment. It was 11 o'clock. She just finished off. She said no, and then we lost
Got
that.
it. So she said no, and I asked her, is there anybody you know that we might be able to give a quick call to now that may need some stuff or might be willing to take a look at the website? Because my schedule was full. I couldn't do any more appointments. I had 5 appointments scheduled for the next day. There was nothing I could do. And she's like, you're crazy. It's 11:30 at night. You think my friends are up right now and want to buy knives? You're insane. And I'm like, sorry, I have to ask because I committed to doing everything I could no matter what till the very end. You don't have to say yes, but I'm just doing everything in my power to try to hit this goal. And she pauses and she's like, actually, I have a client. He's a good friend of mine and he just got a new place. He probably needs some stuff for the kitchen and he could definitely afford it. Let me give him a call. He's up late. He's young. He's 23. So right there, I found out there's a young 23, not an ideal prospect, but he has some money and a new place may need some stuff for the kitchen. Now, this is long before the virtual demo existed. We had this thing called phone demos, and it was this big, thick manual, and you walk somebody through the website. So at 11 o'clock at night, I get this guy on the phone. I walk him through the website. He's like, you know what, the homemaker, that looks pretty good. I think I'll get that one. And I had never sold an ultimate set. My biggest set ever was a homemaker set at that time. And I said, hey, man, I had listened to audios every day, and this was one of the things I had heard, and it just flew out of my mouth. I had never even said it to a customer before, but because I had been studying and growing every day, it happened. And I said, so to be honest, man, all you need is the homemaker. You're 23, you don't do much cooking. Like the homemaker is going to be more than enough for you right now. But the great thing about Cutco is they're guaranteed. This is not a purchase you're making for today. This is a purchase you're going to have for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Do you ever plan on getting married? He's like, yeah, eventually. I'm like, you seem kind of like a party guy. You're going to be throwing some parties, have some people over. All right, well, the complete set's the only one that comes with 12 steak knives. 8 really isn't a full setting. It's not going to match your silverware. So having the 12 is a lot nicer. And there's a couple pieces in there you might not use every day, but over the next 20, 30, 40 years, you definitely use. Like the heavy-duty meat cleaver. Are you like a barbecue guy? Yeah, you like to do that cajachina? All right, so when you have those tough bones, this cleaver is awesome. And, you might not be doing much of that now, but in 5, 10, 15 years, it might be something you use 4 or 5 times a year. And I went through a couple pieces. The salmon knife, you ever do some fish? Yeah, it might not be often, but 2 or 3 times a year, you're going to use that knife for the next 20, 30, 40 years. He's like, you know what? That does make sense. Let's just get the big one. That way I'm done with it. I don't have to order any more later. Complete set. And it was so easy. I just asked the question. So I said, what else can I show this guy? So I showed him flatware. I sold him a flatware chest. I sold him all the hunting knives. I sold him a couple gadgets. Ended up being a $3,000 order that I wrote up at it ended up being almost 12:30 at night. When I got off the phone with him, I got the credit card. Everything was good. Imagine that excitement. And my customer says, you know what, sweetheart? I can do the basic set. Let's go ahead and do that homemaker. Just put it on the payments for me. And she bought a homemaker from me. Ended up being a $4,000 appointment, almost doubling my push sales. And I didn't leave that house until maybe close to 2 o'clock in the morning. When I left, I was so pumped. I called all my managers, everybody on my lines. Of course, no one answered. And I was just there in my car wanting to share this experience. And I couldn't wait to Alliance the next day. That was a championship moment. That took me over 10K for the push. I finished up with another grand day the day after that. And then I sold $1,500 on the bus ride up to SC2 to hit my goal of $12,500. Most of that $1,500 that I sold on the phone was to clients that had already bought from me during the push. So one of the things that I recommend that you do, that I do every single year, is I keep a list of every person that I meet, their name, their phone number, and the things they were interested in that they didn't buy. There's always a couple things that spark their mind, things that they might get, they didn't pull the trigger on. I list that there. And before I leave the house, I say, hey, Miss Jones, I'm working super hard for this goal. If at the end, I'm super close, and you ordering that extra veggie peeler or adding on the cookware, getting the flour could put me over, can I give you a call and just throw you like an incredible deal on it? You don't have to say yes, but like, can I at least reach out at the end of my contest? 95% of the times, if you built good rapport, they bought something from you, the answer will be yes. And I find that I convert about 30% of those people. So if you complete 20 appointments over the course of the push, and every single person you get that commitment from, at the end, those 20 appointments can turn into 6 additional sales on the bus ride home. And so it's a pretty powerful thing. Now, I'm going to try to get the PowerPoint up one more time. I wanted to show you some of my breakdowns for the numbers from my first push. All right, can you guys hear me? Good. So here are some numbers from my first couple pushes, just so you can get an idea for how this all happens. In 2011, I had one $3,000 order. I had two $1,000 orders about homemakers. I had 5 starter sets around the $500 price point, and I had 15 orders at around $400. So that means that out of the $12,500, I sold $12,500 on 26 orders. $72,000 of that came on 11 orders. Out of those 11 orders, 6 of those orders made up $6,100 of my push. Out of those 6 orders, 3 orders made up $4,000. 3 of my orders made up almost a third of my push. And what happens that a lot of people miss is they get stuck in this emotional roller coaster. And they don't stay consistent. They don't stay committed. Let me explain what happens to most people on their first push. They kick off with a bunch of appointments. They prepared. Their first week is solid. Then they don't get the results that they want. They start teetering out on leads. They lose their circles. They lose their confidence. They have some no sales. And the second week of the push, they dip. They get depressed. They get neg. They miss an alliance meeting. They skip an appointment. They don't make extra calls that they need to. They have all these thoughts about how they're not going to hit their goal and how far things are. And then they come into the last 4 days of the push. And all of a sudden, there's motivation. People are starting to pop some stuff. There's 4 days left. And you recommit and you decide, I got 4 days left. I'm way too far from my goal. I screwed up for 4 days. But, man, I'm going to crush these 4 days. And you pop big at the end and hit 10,000. That's basically what my breakdown was, right? I had a weaker first week, even second week. Sometimes most people have a bigger first week, a weak second week, and then they finish strong. But if you keep that consistency and you just keep working through it, all the numbers will work out for themselves at the end. Because here's the deal. 15 orders under $400. I was not focused on that. During the push, what you're focused on are how can I get in front of a $3,000 customer, a couple of $1,000 customers, a couple of $500 customers, and then everything else is just getting to those people. 2016, my 20K push, I had 8 orders for $1,000, 4 orders that were starter sets, and 28 orders under $350. This was one of the most difficult pushes I've ever had. I've always been an average order guy, and I've had many pushes, most of my pushes with a lot of big orders in them. This push didn't happen. I didn't have a single order over $1,200, but I was committed to my goal. I grinded out the appointments, and I made it happen, $20,000 without having any big orders. So you don't need the big orders to have the push, but let me tell you, it helps. And when I conceptualize a push, there's 2 ways I break down my push. First, I run my averages. I have this much of an average order. I have to make this many calls, complete this many appointments in order to hit my goal. And that's how I set my schedule. I'm sure if you haven't, you'll end up doing that with Andrew or one of your assistant managers before the push starts, right? And that'll tell you how much work you really need to do. But then I reconceptualize the push. How many people do I have to meet that are going to buy a starter set? $500. How many people do I have to meet to buy a homemaker? How many people do I have to meet that buy an ultimate? And how many people do I have to sell something a little bit bigger to? Maybe it's business gifts. Maybe it's flatware. Maybe it's cookware. Maybe it's a Cutco kitchen. If you're shooting for a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 push goal, you're going to need a couple of those people, okay? A $30,000, $40,000 push, that doesn't happen by accident. That happens by prospecting, by getting in front of some of your best clients. Now, some of your worst clients will give you some of your best clients. I want to show you this here. This is a breakdown of my first summer. A lot of times you don't have this perspective when you're new because it hasn't happened to you yet. But my Aunt Minnie bought $299 from me. Not super exciting. But look at who she recommended me to. Christine, who bought a flatware chest. Vivian, who bought a knife. Yvonne, who bought a homemaker. Lucy, who bought a peeler. And then Janice, who bought about a galley set. But what was cool was from Yvonne's leads, I met Pilar. And Pilar introduced me to Celedonio, who bought $3,500. And Francis, who bought $2,800. And then Francis introduced me to her sister, who bought $2,000. And her best friend, who bought a signature set. And then her sister introduced me to her cousin, who bought a signature set. And I worked my way through this network. And this is how big pushes happen. You get into a network and you capitalize on it. You go see the mother, the daughter, the sister, the brother, the whole network and family. And then you branch into a new network. And you see all of those people. And once you get 2 or 3 big sales in a network, once 2 of the 4 siblings have bought a set, the other 2 siblings, it's a no-brainer. They do it. When 4 office workers have bought it, the 5th one always is interested as well. So focusing on the networks and knowing that it only takes a couple. All of those small orders, all those no sales, you're working through them to get to the next grand order. And they'll get you there, right? If you look at my breakdown for my 40K push, I had 11 orders that made up $20,000 of my push. I sold $20,000 on 11 orders. Those orders had a $2,000 average order, but I had 46 orders at $21,000. Now, this isn't super applicable to you guys. There's a lot of phone orders in there as well, right? Those weren't all appointments. But the point is, I always know that 20% of my appointments are going to generate 80% of my sales. And so when I have a client that doesn't buy big, when I sell a knife or a couple pieces, or I have a no sale, what I'm looking for is how can that person put me in front of that homemaker client? Ruth is one of my favorite clients. Ruth bought a mini cheese knife from me, and she lives in the hood, okay? She was not the best prospect. I went to her house during SC2 Push 2016, and I sold her a mini cheese knife. And I could have just been like, this is this old crazy lady that walks dogs for a living. Who is she going to introduce me to? What is this going to create? I need to sell her this mini cheese knife and get the hell out of here. But instead, I listened to my history, and I'd learned that everybody knows somebody. And I actually ended up spending an extra 10 minutes with her. She wanted to meditate with me. So I did. And we meditated and we bonded. And then I asked her for referrals. She introduced me to Danny, one of the people that she walks dogs for, who's now bought over $4,000 from me, bought a homemaker from me during that push. She introduced me to Christine, who lives in Hibiscus, one of the islands right by Star Island. And she bought $2,000 from me for that push. These were people that turns out she walked the dogs for. You never know who people know and who they can connect you to. Everybody knows somebody that can buy $1,000 or more from you. And so if you're not in front of that person, how can you get from where you are to where that person is? I wanted to share this. This is a really cool recording that I came across while I was cleaning out my computer during the surgery. And this was after my first $40,000 push. We were celebrating, a couple of us in a hot tub. So you'll hear some water and some bloopering. It was a little bit of a late night thing. But we were kind of just debriefing the push. And this is one of the most powerful lessons I've learned during the push. This is from Andy Janti. So I want you guys to listen to this real closely. If you can't hear it, please wave or something.
So the realization was that whenever you're in a push and you have a goal, and then you get like the short-term results that affect you, and you let them affect you, at that moment you have a choice, right? You have either a choice to bitch out and just be like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm probably not gonna make it. Like, you know, nobody's buying from me right now. I forgot how to like sell. Like all of a sudden, you know, like the world has conspires against you, and there's like nothing that will be better ever. Right? I mean, that's the kind of emotional thing that people go through. It's never gonna be better, right? Or the realization I had is that I kept asking myself questions, and that's why they talk about asking yourself questions all the time. And that question was, you know, am I gonna quit? So, because the truth is, if I'm gonna quit, then I should just quit right now and be done and move on and do something else with my life. But if I'm not going to quit, so then I need to just get up and go find my success. Because at the end of the day, most of us that go through that emotional process, 3 days later, we get up and like, oh my gosh, I'm tired, I'm being a little bitch, okay, fine. So eventually you're gonna get up. So the faster you get up, the faster you're gonna get to your thing. So the question was, am I gonna quit? And if I'm not gonna quit, I need to get up right now and just do it. And because everything else between doing it right now and later is just a waste of time that you can never regain. You can never regain that time, ever.
So that has been something that's helped me through a lot in my life. When I faced with the challenge, and the bottom line is, am I going to let this challenge stop me? If I am, then I might as well just stop, right? If this is so terrible and so awful that I'm never going to make my way through it, if I'm so awful I can't have a single sale, I might as well just quit now. And then if you can't stomach that and you're not going to quit and you're not the quitting type, then what's left? Taking more action, getting out of where you are and improving and growing. And how fast can you get there? And the reason people miss their goals, people that you see sell 7,000 like I did in my last 4 days, I could have sold that the week before and had a $20,000 push. But I let my emotions take control of me and I didn't perform the way I should have. I found the motivation at the end, right? I found the motivation when the pressure was on. But how do you create that motivation throughout your entire push? And that's a big key to my success. Now, it's possible that you have in 2000 last year I had a coaching client, Luke Laughlin, sold $55,000 for SC1, and he set out with a goal of $25,000. He sold more than double what he set out to sell. This is one of my favorite situations when this happens. This happened to me in 2015 during a fall push. I sold $25,000. My goal was 10. And this is what happens when the magic comes together, when you prospect and get in front of some of your best clients. And when this happens and things are going good, you got to keep going. You got to keep elevating your goal and pushing through further and really capitalizing on all the clients that you had. So a big push like 50, 55, how does that look? Well, to be honest, Luke didn't sell an ultimate set, not one. At the end of the push, he had a $10,000 order. It was a residential order. It was not a business gift or anything fancy. It was just a guy in a trailer park. Turns out he had recently inherited some money and wanted to leave some nice gifts for the family for the year. He bought 3 flatware chests, 2 signature sets, a homemaker set, and a bunch of accessories and gadgets as gifts for the family. How big can you think? At this point, before Luke was going there, he was shooting, trying to get to $40,000 for the push. And I told him, you could get to 50, man. He's like, I got 2 days left. There's no way I can get to 50. I'm like, why not? It could happen. You could have a $10,000 order. It's never going to happen if you don't think it's going to happen. But how could it happen? And we talked through a couple scenarios of people we could meet. And I promise you, a trailer park was not on that list. But he was open-minded to the idea of being able to sell more. And so when he found an opportunity, he capitalized it. And he asked more questions and dove in. And a couple of skill sets that I wanted to cover with you guys. Every program, every customer, every time. Every customer, every program, every time. When I ran my first training in 2012, I had this kid, Jacob, who called me from his second or third appointment. He's like, they said they can't afford it. They don't want anything. I'm like, I walked him through the process. We closed on a trimmer on 2 payments. And the objection was, it's too much money. We can't afford the trimmer on 2 payments. So he calls me back and tells me that. He's like, I got to go to my next appointment. I'm running late. I'm like, well, hey, Jacob, take an extra 5 minutes. Show him the flatware. Show him the cookware. Show him the hunting knives. Talk to him about gifts a little bit for family and friends. Just because they're not in the market for knives for them doesn't mean that they're not in the market for anything. You just got to spark their interest. Be creative. Find CPO somewhere. He's like, there's no way they can't afford a trimmer on 2 payments. How are they going to buy a flatware chest or cookware? I'm just going to go home. And I like, Jacob, you walk them through the whole book. Show them everything before you leave. 30 minutes later, I get a call from Jacob. He sounds frustrated and furious. I'm like, it's okay, man. No sales happen. It's not a big deal, but you got to show everybody everything every time. He's like, no sale. No, they bought a flatware chest. I'm like, what do you mean they bought a flatware chest? I thought they couldn't afford a trimmer. He's like, I don't know. The second I started talking about flatware, they're like, oh, we need some nice flatware. How much is that? And they bought it. And he was so blown away because he was convinced that they couldn't afford 2 payments for a trimmer. And the reality was, for whatever reason, I wasn't there, I don't know, but they weren't in the market for the knives today. Maybe they had some nice stuff. Maybe, who knows what it was, but they needed some silverware. They needed the flatware. And so the moment he talked about it, all of a sudden they found $1,000 to spend. I've had $2,000, $3,000 orders without selling a single knife. So a part of this creativity is looking for CPO. I'll take CPO in any way. I'll sell 100 peelers. I don't care. What I care about is the CPO at the end. So every customer, every program, every time. That means showing them the knives, offering them the cookware, showing them the flatware, walking through accessories, gifts. Gifts, guys. If there's one part of the business where people are underutilizing, especially new reps and managers, they don't sell enough gifts. Anybody that's buying $1,000 from you can afford to spend $300 to $400, can afford to spend $300 to $400 on gifts as well. I add gifts on as a regular basis. I had a customer, Linda. Linda bought a Cutco kitchen from me in 2016, $6,000 order. And I tried to see her a million times after that. I called her a billion times. She never answered. And finally, I went back to sharpen her knives 4 years later. Now, she owned the ultimate set, a bunch of extra knives, every piece of cookware, 2 settings of flatware, and most of the accessories. I didn't know what I was going to sell her. But I knew she could afford it. I knew she was a good prospect. And so I went ahead and I went to her house. I ended up selling her $2,500 in gifts for family, friends. She bought a homemaker set as a gift. So gifts are huge. And the reason Cutco makes a great gift is you give it once, the people use it every day, and they have it forever. Miss Jones, what did you get for Christmas 10 years ago? They can never tell you. If you had gotten your Cutco 10 years ago, do you think you would have remembered? Or, Miss Jones, you just told me you bought your Cutco 7 years ago. You remember who gave it to you and you've used it every day. Imagine giving that gift, a gift that people will use every day, never throw away, and will have the rest of their life. That's the power of Cutco. It turns out 100% of your clients eat food. 100% of people cook and eat. This is a perfect gift for anybody. With the engraving, it's gorgeous. I sold an ultimate set to one of my customers that's bought over $6,000 from me just 2 weeks ago as a business gift. Turns out he had one of his coworkers that was retiring. They wanted to get him something really nice for his retirement. He's a big chef. So I built in the value of that. We engraved it with the client's name. It said the Bircher family, a cut above on the plate. And that's what sold him, was the engraving plate on the ultimate set. $2,900 order as a gift. So gifts are super underutilized in our business. Sell a lot of gifts. The last thing I want to cover are just a couple tips on recommendations. So every customer, every program, every time, you never know what's going to hit, right? And it's the same with recommendations. Every customer, recommendations. Every customer, you get the heads up text. Every customer, you try to create an immediate appointment from. Here's my focus during the push. I want to have 10 appointments ahead of me. If my goal is 20,000 for the push, I want to have 10 appointments ahead of me minimum at all times. Ideally, you want to start the push with 20 or 30 appointments ahead of you. If I'm going for a $30, $40, or $50,000 push, that number is closer to 30 appointments that I want to have scheduled before the push starts, and ideally keep ahead of me as much as possible. I'm always replacing my appointments. Here are a couple strategic mistakes that people make. This is some higher level stuff here, and we'll wrap up with this. I am very aware of who I'm in front of during the push. I'm very aware of my schedule for the next day during the push. I actually rank my appointments 1, 2, or 3. 1 is someone I'm pretty sure is going to sell over $1,000. I'm going to sell over $1,000 to. 2 is someone I'm pretty sure is going to buy, but I'm not sure what. And then 3 is somebody that's just kind of a filler appointment. They're not the best. And when I'm doing recommendations, I base this off of what their friend bought, the conversation I had with them on the phone, and what I know from when I got that referral. And if I have a customer that I know is not super exciting, scheduled for a time, and I don't have any appointments the next day, my focus is going to be to create appointments for the next day, no matter who I'm with, no matter who I'm in front of. I might even be late to an appointment and make extra calls if I don't have my day full for the next day. And so I'm hyper aware of that. And once you have the 10 appointments scheduled ahead of you, it's just a matter of replacing them. Can I get every customer to replace themselves in my schedule? I completed this appointment. This was a big key to my 40K push, because when you're going for big numbers, 40, 50, 60, the biggest challenge is time. You only have 18 days. There's only so many hours in the day. And I realized that making 20 calls to book one appointment wasn't the most efficient thing. I'd rather spend an extra 5 minutes with that customer, offer them a little free peeler, a little something extra on their order, get them to call their top 3 people and schedule one appointment for me right there at the house, have them replace themselves in my schedule. And that's been a key to one of my big successes. I get my leads, I qualify them, have them send out a heads up text, and then I share something like this. Miss Jones, you know how crazy my goal is, right? I know it seems insane. And the only way I'm going to do it is if I can have a full schedule every day. And sometimes I'll even pull out my schedule and like, check it out. So I have 5 scheduled for tomorrow, 3 for Thursday, 2 for Saturday. I have this spot and this spot that are empty. I'll do this on my phone or on my calendar. Who do you know from the list that we might be able to call to, see if we can fill in those slots? Because it's really hard. I'm going to have to call through them all in order to get maybe 1 or 2. But if you call, more of them are going to answer. They know your number. And this could make a bigger difference for me than anything else. So I know you said Kathy's home a lot during the day. Do you think we can give her a call real quick, see if she might be able to see me on Friday? And I have that conversation with every customer every time. And even when I get a no, I ask that next customer anyways, because you'll be surprised with who's willing to do what, but you'll get what you want if you ask. I find that about 30% of my appointments, I can have them generate a new appointment for me from that appointment at a minimum. But it requires me asking every customer, right? I find about 50 to 60% of them are willing to do it. And out of that 50 to 60%, about half of those people, sometimes we just can't get a hold of them or whatever, but we replace ourselves on the appointment. So make sure that you are focused on your schedule, it being full. Have your commitment set. Be 100% committed to your goal no matter what. There's no other option. Reach out to Andrew to get some of those resources I shared with him, the audio from Hal Elrod with Push Period Magic Performance, my affirmations for 20K and 30K push. Highly recommend that you utilize those. And utilize each other. That'll be my leaving piece. Always, always, always. The biggest thing you can gain from this sometimes is just relationships with your clients and with your peers. Every push I've done with somebody else. Every push I've done, that credit's got to be shared with my alliance, with my coworkers, with the people that push me to improve. And when you utilize one another in the best way, man, results can come. Don't vent to one another. Don't put each other down. Always vent up. That's what Andrew's there for, right? Yell at him, bitch him out. Don't call one another and put each other down. But be aware of one another as well. If you know someone's struggling, give them energy. Call them, pump them up. You had a good sale, share it with them one-on-one. That'll only help them grow and it'll help you grow. With that, if you want to take some questions, I have a little bit more time. If not, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you, T Max. Took some good notes there, and I think that was just really helpful for people to get an idea and a taste of what how pushes are, how they can unfold, and the mentality that they need too. We can open up for questions, guys. We'll probably have another 5 minutes or so if you want to hang out. Any questions that you all have for T Max on maybe some what he's done previously in pushes, maybe how to create leapfrog same day appointments, any questions like that, we can open it up, or even just some general sales questions. Go free. Yeah, Adrian, want to chime in?
Yeah, so T-Max, my question is, so how did you go about making appointments? Would it be the typical Wednesday, Sunday lining up appointments, or how is it that you went ahead and like created more demos?
Awesome question. I don't believe in set phone times, to be honest. The advantage to making calls on Sunday and Thursday with the office is the environment and the people and the motivation. Back in the day, that was a bigger deal when we had home phones. But with cell phones, people pick up at any time, anywhere. And so I don't particularly love sitting down and making 200 phone calls. I'm going to do that a couple times before the push to prep it, to make sure I have my 20 to 30 appointments. And that's just grinding, right? Calling everybody, going through my old schedule for canceled appointments, people that rescheduled on me that I haven't seen. I'm going to look through every lead that I have and focus on my best ones, make an attack list for them. And then everybody else I'm going to call as well. I have my focus of my best people that I want to duplicate. Those are my best rec list, my top leads from every rec list. And then I have everybody else that I call as well. And so at the beginning, it's quantity, right? It's just numbers. It's just going and grinding through and filling my schedule with everybody and anybody. Once my schedule is full, I can focus on upgrading, right? And that's why I mark my appointments 1, 2, or 3. Because if I have a 3 scheduled at 7:30 at night, and I have a baller appointment that just called me back that is maybe interested, and they're only available tonight, you better believe I'm going to make that switch. I'm going to reschedule my 3, and I'm going to put that best appointment at 7:30 at night. So I'm very aware of who I'm seeing at all times. And then phone calls throughout the push, they kind of go on an as-needed basis. I never go into an appointment without making 5 calls during the push, because the key is consistency. It's not necessarily about making 100 calls a day if you set it up properly. Sometimes that'll happen. For my 20K push, I made more phone calls than I've ever made in my life. I got to a point after making 200 calls in a day that I had to go outside and smash some mangoes with a 2x4 because I had made 150 calls and not sold anything. And so, I'm committed and ready to make calls to do whatever it takes on my schedule. But what I find works well is every morning, 20 calls, 30 calls in the morning. Between every appointment, 4 to 5 calls. If a customer cancels, a cancellation, that means 30 calls. Like if an appointment cancels, I'm going to stay parked in their parking lot or the Starbucks right by, and I'm going to make calls. And another huge secret to a push is never, ever go home during the day. Don't do it, because you know what's going to happen. You're not going to give your very best at home. Nobody does. I still can't. No matter how deep my level of commitment is, you got to set yourself up for success. So when I leave in the morning, I don't come home until my day is gone. I stop at Starbucks, I go to the office, but I stay out in the field all day interacting with clients. And so I'm never afraid to make calls at any time. I make calls whenever it's necessary. And I'm hyper aware of my schedule for the next 3 days. So I've even gone to the point at times where I had no appointments scheduled for the following day. I had like a 3 appointment. I moved that 3 to the next day and made calls instead, because it's 7 o'clock. I have no appointments the next day and I have a mediocre lead to see. No, I'll move that lead to tomorrow, and I'm going to use this time now to fill my schedule tomorrow because I can't get that time back. So I'm always aware of that. And that's kind of my strategy is 5 calls before every appointment, 20 to 30 calls in the morning, 20 to 30 calls at night. Works out to be about 50 to 60 calls a day, which is usually what you need for a solid push. If you do it right, it'll drop. You should have more appointments and just not have enough time to get to that many calls. But you're always hyper aware of your next 3 days. And if your next 3 days aren't packed, you should be really cautious about booking a same day or, what you're doing with your time that day. Your main focus is to fill your next 2 days.
Awesome. Who else has any questions here as we wrap up? Yeah, Danny, chime in.
We can't hear you, man.
Then you mute.
Oh, cool. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Cool. So I wanted to ask, as far as during the push, I'm sure you've leapfrogged before. How does that go? How many times have you done it? What's your best advice for doing it if you ever have free time after an appointment?
Mm-hmm. So the key is not necessarily how you ask. I'm a big believer. I've never been a huge scripts guy. Scripts are crucial, but the key is to internalize them, right? Because it's not the words, it's the music. It's not what you say, it's how you do it. A lot of times I hear reps complain about objections that I just don't hear because I've set things up differently. So to answer your question, I think the biggest thing is how tied in they are to your goal. So let me show you real quick how I tie my customers into the goal. I'm going to show you my blue book real fast. Don't be intimidated, okay? This is 8 years. So your book is going to vary, but this will give you a good idea of what to work towards. So I have pictures with some of my customers, pictures of some of the stuff I've done over the years in Cutco. You guys won't have a lot of that, but I do have scholarship because I did win a bunch of scholarships as a student. A lot of my clients met me there. But the goal, the SC2 page, okay, let me show you how I share my SC2 goal. These are recommendations, testimonials. Here you go. So Miss Jones, and so we've been talking and connecting, and like Miss Jones, right now, there's something crazy going on. It's called SC2. It's Summer Conference 2. It's the biggest contest of the year. And it's an opportunity for me to get some great income, win a ton of prizes, and kind of move up in the business. So I'm working my butt off. It's an 18-day contest. And I tell them everything I've been doing. I've been at the office in the morning at 7 a.m. I've been meeting clients all day. I'm at blank amount in sales, and my goal is to get to blank. I don't know if it's possible. My goal is to sell $40,000, Ms. Jones, in 18 days. I know it sounds insane. It sounds more insane to me. But I'm 100% committed to my goal no matter what. There's no other option. Like, if you wanted to write me a check for $40,000, I wouldn't say no. You can definitely help me out. I could take the rest of the push off. But anything you see that you do like, I'm going to give you a super crazy, killer, awesome, like unreal deal on because it could make a big difference towards my goal. So just be open-minded and take advantage of me because I'm really vulnerable right now. Like, I would give you some great deals that I wouldn't do any other time of year just because of this push. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm open, I'm real. I show them my schedule, how much I've been working, how committed I am to my goal. People get motivated and inspired by that. And then I tie it back to the referrals. So I've talked about sales, and at some point throughout the presentation, I'm going to let them know, Ms. Jones, honestly, obviously, chances are you're not going to buy $40,000 from me today. Just be real. I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to, but the way I'm going to hit my goal is by having a full schedule. So at the end of the appointment, if you like me, you like the product, I'm going to ask you to introduce me to a couple of my friends and help me fill up the rest of my schedule for this week. And I just plant that seed at the beginning. And then at the end, once I get the recommendations, I show them my schedule. I say, hey, Ms. Jones, I have 3 empty slots that I'm trying to fill for the next couple days. I know you said that Jackie and Chris are both available during the day. Can we call Jackie real quick? See if maybe I can see her on Friday? Because the thing is, if I call through the list, Ms. Jones, like most of them don't recognize my number. I might get 1 or 2 of them, but I found that when my customers call, the results are way better. And I'm not above bribery. Okay, Ms. Jones, I know you really like that veggie peeler and you didn't get it. It's a $40 peeler. If you can fill 1 appointment time for me, I'll just buy it for you. Does that sound fair? Can we call at least 1 person? Okay, great. And so it's just walking them through that process. And again, it's not the words, it's the music. It's preferencing it at the beginning and then just asking for it at the end, right? And explaining the why behind it, right? Not just can you call and schedule an appointment for me. There's nothing exciting there. But when you tie it that your success is going to be based on filling your schedule, then the magic happens.
Cool. If anyone else needs to hop off, by the way, I told you guys we would go to 9:30. Tim, actually have time. I don't know if you have time for any questions.
I got a couple more minutes. I'm going to the beach afterwards. So, by the way, just so you guys know, this year, because of the whole kidney thing, I started prepping for SC2 in mid-June. So I have my attack list ready. I have 10 appointments scheduled for the push, and I can take it easy a little bit this weekend because I can't be stressed. I'm going to sell $50,000 while working less. It takes more preparation. So make sure you're preparing right now, organizing your attack list and getting things ready. It makes all the difference in the world.
Yep. Any other questions from the crew? Alrighty.
Andrew, please share that push period performance message with your guys. It is my push. It was my success. That if they internalize that message from Hal Elrod, I mean, that's it. It's game over. And guys, I'll end with this. My favorite thing about pushes, I was a wrestler in high school, and I love individual sports, but I love being part of a team. And the push is perfect for that because it's all about you and your goal and the trophy at the end, but your sales contribute to the team. And I know you guys have a big goal this year. And if you utilize each other correctly, you don't vent and put each other down, you build each other up, you share positive things, you're aware of one another, magic will happen. I mean, it's incredible. Everything I've done big in my life, I've done with a group of others. And knowing how to utilize others is key. It's extra motivation. And you guys have a big goal, but you're a team that I know that can do it. In 2016, when I sold $40,000 in December to hit $150,000 for the year, I was so demotivated. First week of the month, I had to sell $40,000 in a month to hit my goal. I had most biggest month I'd ever had was $18,000. So I had to more than double my biggest month in the hardest month of the year to sell. And first week I had a $10,000 order. That really helped. But the second week I sold $1,000. The third week I sold $1,500. So that third week I was ready to quit. I had 2 weeks left and I was done. Like I had never been so emotionally broken in my life. I was almost in tears. I'm driving home from a no-sale appointment and I get a call from Francisco, one of my friends from the Alliance. Builds me up, gives me some love, tells me to get on the phone, but I ignored him. And I said, yeah, I'm going to get on the phone. And I hung up. And I kept crying and I kept going to my house. And then Mariana called me, another person from the Alliance, totally random. Called me, gave me some love, encouragement, and it wasn't enough. I got off the phone with her. I kept driving home and I stayed upset. 10 minutes later, Colton calls me, third friend of mine from the Alliance. This was one of those things, the freaky universe just pulling together. What are the odds that 3 of the people in my Alliance call me back to back to back at the moment I needed it the most? And he calls me, gives me some love, and I'm like, shit, I'm not going to hit my goal. I am $30,000 away with 2 weeks. There's just not going to happen. Christmas, all these reasons, but I can't stop. I can't go home right now. These people are relying on me. They're counting on me. They're working. I can't stop. I may not get to 40, but damn, I'm going to fight to get to as high as I could. And I made that decision. I released myself from the pressure of trying to hit my goal. I accepted that I probably wasn't going to, and I made my calls. And I worked that night, and I ended up selling a $17,000 week, followed by another like $15,000 week, $12,000 on the last day of the year. $12,000. A $5,000 appointment that started at 9 p.m. on the last day of the year. I didn't roll my last order until 3 o'clock in the morning, and I hit my goal. And that goal, that $10,000 in income that I earned was directly related to those 3 phone calls I got from my friends on the Alliance. And that's how powerful you can impact somebody else, and you can be impacted if you let it. So you guys are about to go off on a journey. And I'm telling you, you have a massive goal, which means there's going to be some massive challenges, but there's going to be some massive successes. And I can't wait to see you guys there. This event is going to be ridiculous. I think it's going to be one of the best SC2s we've ever had. From a regional standpoint, some of the things they're doing to prepare it is going to be phenomenal. And I know the push numbers are going to be sick. So get grinding, get impressive, and I'll see you guys on stage.
Word. Thank you so much.